Oh my God.
We're up.
I'm up. Hey, good morning. Morning, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm the better looking version of Dick Brandon.
All right. Dick Brandon 2.0.
Yeah.
Played him on TV.
He decided he'd take a trip to Alaska today instead of coming here. I don't
Go
understand that reasoning.
No priorities.
No priorities,
That's
none
right.
whatsoever, right? Well, I want to welcome you all here, of course, to the Division I meeting. And today, we're going to have a great meeting. I know we'll hear more about it in a minute. But our clinics, so it should be great. First of all, are there any people here for the first time? Yes, sir. Stand up, tell us.
Hi, my name's Marshall Leak. I live up north in Louisville, Texas. I've been collecting for 25, almost 30 years. Finally during COVID, built my own layout at my office.
Hey, a COVID layout, another one.
Yeah, right. So just went to the show, became a member the week before the show, and looking to get involved and learn as much as I can about the process.
Well, you've come to the right place. Thank you so much for joining us. Yes, sir. Stand up, tell us who you are.
This is not my first time here, but it's first time in a long time. Mike got me out of my hole to get here this week, so I did almost better when I was here, but you got to do show and tell. But anyway, long railroader since 1978, got out of it for about 20 years and got back into it.
So glad you're here. Thank you very much.
I'll take care of it.
All right. And Mike, you have a visitor?
Is it time for that?
I don't know what it is.
Okay, this is more of if after we get into business stuff.
Okay, fine. We'll come back to you.
Okay.
All right. Yes. What? Visitor or new member? That's cool. What? All right, very good. Okay. I want to thank, of course, the Texas Mountain Railroad Club, Mr. Crumpton.
Yes. Okay. First of all, if you've not been here before, this is the Texas Western Model Railroad Club. We're glad you're here. Please, after the meeting, take time to walk around the layout, look at what has happened since the last month that we met. You know, model railroads can develop fast or they can develop slow. But you'll see some changes in some different areas and some things that have been added to, and it's a continual process. If you're new here for the first time and you're looking around and you see some things that look familiar to you, that's for a reason. Tower 55, the General Motors plant, what's going to become Dallas, Houston on the lower level. You'll see a lot of things that will look familiar to you. Our philosophy is to try to model what people are familiar with rather than just an abstract layout. So as you're walking around and looking, if you have questions, find somebody with a red hat on that says Texas Western or a shirt that says Texas Western. We'll be glad to give you the nickel tour. But thank you for coming.
You want to tell us about this, please? Because I've got one of those too. It's really cool.
Terry, you want to talk about this? Because you were heavily involved in this. Okay. I don't have.
What's on the back? It's so touchy.
I don't have my reading glasses.
Here, I'll read it.
Can you read it?
I can.
Well, to preface this, the Wednesday of the convention, the bus tour came here as part of their stops to tour the layout. Later on that evening, the layout design special interest group came to see the construction of the layout, what we've done with the steel and how we constructed it. And they awarded us this plaque, the club, as a thank you for letting them come by and spend time here. And there's a deal on the back that I can't read because I don't have
I'll
the
be
glasses.
happy to read it.
Dave, take it away.
Anybody else besides, go ahead, sit down. Anybody else have one of these besides the club?
Yeah,
Mike's got one. Who else?
Anybody else bring tears to your eyes when you read it?
Yeah, Corey Coletti's got one.
Yeah, I got one. So, yeah, I didn't actually cry about it, but it was fine.
Well, I'm telling you,
All right, it says, dear layout owner, you may be perplexed, ashamed, bewildered, embarrassed by the absence of a piece of cheap simulated walnut wood as the base for your plaque. Indeed, the LD SIG is not prone to such false representations. Let me explain the very unique layering of your well-earned recognition plaque. The bare, finely sanded plywood is a reminder to you of the days when this room had nothing in it except bare benchwork. Secondly, the layer of finely hand-milled homosote represents the time when you had the benchwork, roadbed, and track here in your layout room. And finally, the beautiful piece of hand-etched brass represents your layout as we visited it today. We hope you enjoy and are proud of earning this recognition for your layout development efforts. Well written, I thought. Yeah, I've got one of these. I thought it was really cool. I did not expect it. I think that was the best part. All right, moving on. So, building on that, the Texas Express 2023 National Convention was a great success. I know we had over 950 people show up. And I tell you what, as a committee member, I walked around every day in my white shirt, and I had people come up to me asking questions, you know, where's this, where's that? But many of them came up to me and thanked me and said, I don't know who's in charge of all this, but this is a great convention. I had people there who had been to, I think one guy said he'd been to 11 or 12 conventions, right? And over the course of several years, he said it was the best one he's been to, and I heard that comment from a lot of people.
Let's do it again next year.
Yeah, we're gonna do it, yeah, we're gonna do it next year.
No.
And actually, there was a comment left on the NMRA site, website, that asked us to come back here again.
You got a volunteer to be the chairman.
Yeah, who said that, by the way? Yeah, okay, you're in charge.
Finger point going on back here.
That's pretty good. In that regard, how many people here were actually on the committee besides myself? On the committee? Right. All right, we want to thank you all very, very much. Good job. How many people here, other than the committee members, were like volunteers? Oh, look at that. All right, give yourself a hand.
Yeah.
Outstanding job.
Thank you, volunteer.
Last month, we were selling railroad reference books. We raised $225, which was great. And speaking of money, Treasurer's report, we had an opening balance of $2,977 in August. Spent $216, brought in $288. We had a net gain, and we're up to $3,049. So we're in pretty good shape. Mr. Ogden, where are you, sir? All right, please take over. You want to come up here, please? Jim's going to talk about our clinic today and about our clinic next month. I get this around. Yeah, breakfast to the agent.
Well, I just want to remind everybody that next week's, next month's program is going to be the loading dock. Where is Wayne? I saw him here earlier. Okay, we're going to have the loading dock project next week. I'm collecting the money for that today. So I've been giving you receipts. We actually got the list of people who signed up for this, I guess it was last month. And of course, it's for any scale. You know, he's doing things, he's getting the materials together for O scale, S scale, N, and HO. So that will be part of our little, building project will be next month. So again, I'm sitting at the back table. I've got the people who signed the little sheet last week, and I've got the giving you receipts on money taken in and all that kind of stuff. It's got to be a really good build next week. So that's what next month. I keep seeing next week, next month for the Division I show. And I don't know if any of you participated in the depot kit that we did probably about, was it 2 years ago? That was very, very well received. We had kind of a group build on this. So this is a similar kind of thing on it. And it is a loading dock. And you'll need, and I'm sure Dwayne will talk about what we need to bring for next month's program for us to do our magic in here. As far as, tools and stain and all this kind of stuff goes. Something else?
Yeah, so this is gonna be a real simple build. It's gonna be a one meter kind of deal. Bring whatever color stain you want, some wood glue, and probably a knife just in case. A little bit of sandpaper, that's all you need. It's a real easy build, it's a real easy one to put together. It offers a lot of options because, like if you look down here at the end of this track on the lower level down here, there's a couple of little docks. It's about a half a dock and then a ramp. So the way this one's going to be laid out is you're going to have a piece like that, but you're going to have another piece that's just full length, that's just a solid dock. And that'll let you maneuver around and put it in whatever shape you want. You can have it be nice and linear and make a like an LCL dock out of it, or you can split it up and put one on a building and one out for an LCL, or at the end of a track like this one for taking off trailer. So it's going to offer you a lot of options, a lot of different ways to configure things like that. And it's a real quick, easy build. Sure. Real nice and simple, just all in the signage.
Kind of glue?
Preferably wood glue, but you can also use alien tack.
Wood glue like Elmer's glue or yellow stuff?
I would go with more of the yellow stuff, and really truthfully, I would get the waterproof, like a Typon 2 kind of thing, because you're going to be putting it down around scenery. And if you get it wet, you know, you could turn your glue joints loose. So I'd get more like the, let's say, more of the waterproof Typon.
Woodcraft is having a 15% off this weekend.
Yeah, and
I bought some Typon 3, a little small bottle, for $5, got 15% off.
And the craft to go to, I'd suggest you
They
do
actually have
that.
a store, I think, in Hirsch.
Hirsch?
yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's on 26.
All right, Jim, what do we got going on today?
Well, today we're going to have a Zoom meeting from Bob Frankrone, who did he does the Love Those Loads series that have been in the NMRA magazine for probably the last 5 years or so. He gave three different clinics at the national meeting, which was really quite fun. He also did one on Love Those Loads, and one of the things that I've always laughed about that he does is he'll find the most mundane objects. My favorite thing is he found a knob off a fence post in the parking lot of a community center and took it home with him and immediately turned it into a nuclear containment flask. And took it in and, put these fins on it and got the little, got the warning logos and put it on a depressed center flat car. Of course, now that we have a good model of a depressed center flat car that's out there, you have an interesting load to put on. But again, these are going to be things you can do just about any scale. You can do NOHOS. So it's not really tied in with a specific scale. And of course, every load's going to be different. So again, there are a lot of, so use your imagination. But again, this is the person who's behind the Love Those Loads series in the NMRA magazine. Real gentleman. I got to interact with him at the meeting, and he's just really a top-notch guy. And every one of his seminars is just fabulous. But these are things you can actually do. I mean, nobody's going to say, "Oh, they never look like that." Then, it turns out each load is going to be different. So yours is going to be unique, just like the prototype is. But that will be in the second half of the meeting today.
Right, thank you very much,
Thank you.
sir. Yeah, we're all looking forward to that. How many members here today? How many people? Now, how many? 40. 40? How many on Zoom?
6.
46 people. Outstanding. Again, today we're going to have an open house at a member's Moderero at his home. We'll give you the name and address at the end of the meeting, but hopefully you'll be able to get that. It's not that far away. Should be very interesting. In that regard, we have nobody for October. If somebody has a Moderero in their home that you want to open up for the members of there, or we can come here and visit your home after the meeting, please come see me at some point today, or give Dick Brandon a call or an email, and we'll get that set up for October. I think we got November covered. Some announcements. The next convention, if you're not conventioned out already, is in February. So you got plenty of time to recoup. It's February 15th, 16th, and 17th. It's the Lone Star Region Convention. This is a regional convention in Houston. It's actually give me a name, where is it?
Pasadena, Texas.
Pasadena, Texas, thank you. It's somewhere, southeast of Houston. So, I'm looking forward to it. I love the regional conventions, especially when I don't have to do anything.
So far,
But, yes,
do we know by chance if there's an affiliated hotel for that to get a discount?
probably. We'll get the website up at some point.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's in February, so I mean, you got time. But yes, there always is.
There will be, but it hasn't been announced.
Oh, is that it's not on the site? Okay, I haven't been to the site, so I'll do it. All right. September 16th and 17th, that's next weekend. There's the Temple Model Train Show. I try to get to that every year. I can't this year. I won't be. I'll be out of town. But that's it's a day trip. It's kind of fun. They do a really good job. I like that train show a lot. Of course, the Plano Train Show is at the end of the month, September 30th. We're at the other side. September 30th and October 1st. And in that regard, I guess I can get to you now. Russell?
Yep.
Russell's in charge of the volunteers, and the D1 is up for this one. So Russell, let's have it.
All right, I got the sign-up sheets. I know we're all excited about doing another trade show since we just got off a big one. I need volunteers for booth, for membership, I need volunteers for everything. Build them all in one. I think we got another one coming. If we don't, yes, we'll come up with something. For the test track as well, and 2 clinics, I need 2 clinicians as well. So sign-up sheets, I'll send them up front here. Any questions, you can call or email out. We have a short window to get everything done. I know that my wife and I will be there the whole weekend, but we can always use conditional help with the room. And anybody who wants to do a clinic, I'd much appreciate it.
All right, Russell, thank you. Time frames in here? Yeah, it's not an all-day thing, right? It's a 2-hour shift?
Drive shifts.
Yeah, okay, good.
Food,
Yeah, very
day.
All right, I'm gonna put it right here. Right side of the table, yes, sir.
I'm not afraid to talk to anybody about anything. And I, at the National Train Show, by the way, my name's Chris Mahan. Sorry about that. I'm not afraid to talk to anybody about anything, and especially about trying to get more members in the division and the national and our club. And I spent a few minutes talking to the vice president of marketing for Walters, and when I finished the conversation, she said, well, let me send you a Build-A-World that you guys can use to attract new members and show them how fun the hobby is. So I've now received a notice from her that they're shipping us all 6 boxes for a Build-A-World for us to use the Plano Train Show however we want to.
Well done, Chris, thank you.
So
Karen's really good about that. She did it last year. That's what Russell was talking about, getting some stuff sent down here.
Oh, great.
And so Karen really is good. I talked to her yesterday.
Yeah.
She didn't mention that, Chris, but good job.
Yeah, great job, thank you, sir. Yeah, it's really great to see how many people are out there supporting the hobby, you know, and I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there that do that if they just did, right? So, great job, thank you for asking. October, the new 21st and 2nd is the New Brunswick Fall Train Show. And guess where that is? Oh yeah, New Brunswick. And yeah, that's in El Paso. Yeah. So, and then October 27th and 29th, the hugely oversized scale, O-scale meet is here at Fort Worth. So that should be good. All right.
Dr. Ross might want to say something about that.
What's that?
Dr. Ross may want to say something.
Yeah, right, okay.
There'll be NMRA will have the brightest table there to sign up members.
We will or we should?
We will.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, now, sir. Before we get into show and tell and all the other fun stuff. Last
about a week and a half ago, I got a phone call from Britton Gus, who is the head of railroad security for Union Pacific for the entire Southwest. And he said, I've been approached by a Fort Worth police officer who wants to make some small Christmas tree size 4x4 things that they can put, that underprivileged kids, there'll be about 10 of them, underneath the Christmas tree and let a train run around it. He goes, do you know somebody can help? And Britton says, I know the guy. So I got a phone call and talked to this police officer from Fort Worth. And despite what you may think when you see him, he is a really nice guy. Anyway, and so we got together, we've made a little shift. We decided that we're going to go with O-Scale. He's getting donations from either Home Depot or Lowe's, Hobby Lobby, Christmas trees, Christmas ornaments. It's going to be a turnkey thing for about 10 kids, underprivileged, that live in lower income areas of West Fort Worth, as an outreach for them to understand that the police department is not all bad people and they do good things and we have shared interests. So if you would, please give a warm NMRA and Division I welcome to Jason Back.
Appreciate you guys giving me the time. Just give you a little history on myself. What's that?
Where's the kill?
Well, I do play the bagpipes, and we had a 9/11 service this morning, so that's where I rushed from there to the downtown deal. Just real quick, I'm Officer Back. I'm with the Fort Worth Police Department. I have been with Fort Worth probably since 2000. Before that, I was with White Settlement, City of White Settlement. But I grew up in Rendon, so my granddad went to church right up here on Mansfield Highway for many, many years. Of course, it was a total.
What about the
Oh yeah, and well, you know, I grew up going to Hickory Stick Barbecue, so I'm a hometown boy, and you know, so basically what it was I was sitting there, and I'm a neighborhood police officer, so I'm the liaison between you guys or whatever community that I just happen to be over in Las Vegas Trail, but even if I was in your community, I'm your liaison from, you know, the things that go wrong in your community that you're just like, I wish there was just somebody who just listened to me. I'm the one saying, sometimes I listen and sometimes I go, well, there's nothing to that, or, you know, I can't help you, sorry. And sometimes I get on the bandwagon and we figure it out together and we work on it. So my neighborhood is Las Vegas Trail. Is there anybody from west side of Fort Worth that's with us today? Okay, good. So West Side, you understand West Side. West Side was military housing, was Carswell Air Force Base, was Lockheed, well, General Dynamics before that, then Lockheed. Yeah, but it has been named several names. Well, you know, a lot of that neighborhood was working folk and all that kind of thing. Well, this is my opinion. When Carswell said, or I don't know, what was it, President, what's his name? I can't remember what president said, you know what, no more Carswell. And they turned it into a joint reserve base. Well, those guys were basically, there's nobody living here anymore. They're just weekend guys. So my neighborhood that I police, it just kind of went down because mostly it was military, right? And so then it turned into a lot of government housing and a lot of low income because those apartments were older. And it turned into that. So now the city has an initiative to bring Las Vegas Trail back to the way it used to be. We have the neighborhood improvement district, and we also have the public improvement district over there. And so the way this kind of came about was I'm supposed to be doing stuff with the community. And there's a lot of stuff that I don't really get involved in. I probably should, but I don't, because I don't have any interest. Well, I was sitting there thinking one day, you know, what could I do? And I actually was on the scene where, unfortunately, two gentlemen got shot. Well, they shot each other. But, you know, so I'm sitting on that scene, I'm thinking, you know, what could I do what are my interests? Well, you know, if you don't know anything, I'll give you a little bit about myself. I'm a pilot. I was in the Marine Corps, not as a pilot, I was an infantryman. But I'm a pilot, and I'm also an A&P mechanic, so I work on airplanes, and I have my own airplane I work on, and I'm thinking, let's try to get some airplanes. No, it's too expensive. Airplanes are just way too expensive. So, you know, I've always had the model. I did it as a kid, somewhat, not to this scale by any means. But I thought, you know what? It just popped into my head one day, and I said, what if we did this? What if we did a Christmas tree layout, small Christmas tree layout, where these kids that probably have never had a Christmas tree, or maybe they have and it got jerked away from them because they were, you know, jerked out of their house in the middle of the night sometimes, maybe by CPS, maybe, you know, whatever their situation is. They could have this and take it home once they build it, and it's theirs. Nobody can ever take it away from them unless their parents do. I can't control that, unfortunately. So, you know, the ball started to roll, and I contacted Gus, Special Agent Gus, and he contacted Mike, and so where we're at right now is basically BNSF is going to help. The community center, where I kind of is the center of all my operation, is going to help. We're going to pick 10 kids. Oh, what's that? Model Railroad Crossing. He's going to be our supplier of all of our stuff, unless BNSF has some small stuff that they want to give or whatever with their name on it. He's going to be our supplier. What? Start. And so what we're going to do, we're going to bring these 10 kids in, and it's going to be probably a Tuesday and a Thursday for 2 hours after school. And we're going to start with, you know, how you do the layout and how you start planning it. We're going to talk about electricity, DC versus AC. You know, this is all that. This is, you know, just go lightly into that stuff, because these are probably going to be 5th and 6th graders. We're going to talk about scale a little bit. We're going to talk about all kinds of things, and then we're going to start to get going with our layouts. And so what I'm here today to do, I mean, he's already hook, line, and sinker. He can't back out now. He's done. I've got him, and he doesn't know if there's already a warrant written for him if he backs out.
There was a warrant before that.
All I have to do is pressure a judge to sign it. So, but anyway, so if what I'm here to do is talk to you today about possibly getting involved with my project here, and it'll be over in the west side of Fort Worth, and I don't need the whole group every time, which would be awesome. But what I really need is maybe 1 to 2, maybe 3 guys each afternoon. So if you group took Tuesdays and another group took Thursdays, and then y'all said, well, I got something to do next week, so I'll be out. Well, the next group took the Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's what I'm looking for. And I'm looking for direction. So, you know, a kid's over there struggling with this model, and he says, man, I can't get my track down. I don't know how to do it. That's when you guys come in and go, let me show you how to do it. You do one, and then watch them do the next one. Something like that. I am no model railroader by any means.
We're gonna, the scale is gonna be O scale. The idea is that we're gonna get we'll probably need to go to, I'll call Woodland Scenics next week, because Walters doesn't do O scale buildings. And that's what I was talking to Karen about. But Walters was in, they wanted to help any way they could, but since we went O scale, it's put them my way, okay? But I can get some buildings from Woodland Scenics. And they want to have a building that's prefab, and then another building that's kit, and let the kids build the kit. It's not gonna be the same building, but they can get an idea of what they're shooting for, right? This model train crossing has secured 10 starter kits in line L. They would like Dr. Ross, maybe Dr. Walter, to come and do a layout visit on one of their trips to see what an O-scale layout looks like once it's done. on a grander scale. Would you guys be open for that?
Sure.
Okay, those are your two layouts.
Yeah.
All right, and they're in Benbrook area.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we're gonna,
And you're out because you don't know what scale to model in. So, no.
so.
Is it 3 rail or 2 rail?
It's gonna be 3 rail. Yeah.
So, and then we
They're
have,
using, they're gonna use the snap track too, so we're not gonna have, it's not gonna be all that difficult. They are gonna be, it's gonna be an oval with a turnout on one side, they can put a spur in, just something simple, okay? That's what they're looking for.
kind of just to get them into the hobby, give them something to do. It's cheap enough to where they could do something other, there's a lot of hobbies out there that are very expensive. One being airplanes, I know.
Not this one, this one isn't expensive.
Well, there's different levels. I get it. I told you, there's different levels in this, obviously, but something, something that they could do to, get them going and get them into the hobby, because my philosophy is not everybody's designed for college. I went to college later in life, but when I got out of high school in Mansfield, I went to the Marine Corps. So, some of these kids are not designed for that. So to introduce them to like electricity and building and things like that, maybe some of these guys will turn out to be plumbers, electricians, and welders and things like that, because believe it or not, we're losing that. Okay, nobody wants to get out in the heat and work. Well, they don't, because they think it's grunt labor. Well, obviously we know that an electrician can make all kinds of money. So, especially a HVAC guy, so especially right now. But that's my envision. And it literally is just coming, it's pouring out of me as I'm going. And I just, unfortunately, I pour it out onto him, and we all, he kind of structures it for me because he's in the hobby. So I'm going to leave, I've got cards right here. And if I don't have enough, if I run out right there, Mike's got my contact.
First off, kids, is there a show of hands of people that would be interested in helping on this? I'm not saying every single time, but at least pitching in at some time.
It's about a 4-week process. So like if I could get a couple of you, maybe more the first night or something to introduce yourself, if you're going to do the program. And then, you pick a date. So you know it, and I'm not getting into your home life, and that way, you don't have to schedule it every time. So,
If you want to do that, you guys know how to contact me, okay? Let me be your rally point for him, all right? And I'll put you a list together. We'll set up an Excel spreadsheet, a couple of dates, put the names in.
we're looking at starting November the 2nd as of right now. I think that's a Thursday. We're going to start, and then we'll take the week. We'll do a Tuesday the week of Thanksgiving, and then be off because the center's closed, and then have it done by the first week in December. You got a question?
I did that last year at Sellers Middle School. I'm starting it again this year, so I need some pointers on how to do it.
Perfect. If you would give those pointers to Mike, because some of the pointers that you're giving me, I probably won't understand because I'm not as deep in it as y'all are. So, but pretty much for all you guys volunteering, this is your funnel, and he gets it all coordinated and then gets with me. Remember that you're working with kids. You'll be working with kids, so I do have to run the center will run a background check on you. So if any of you got that bank robbery warrant, back 20 years ago or whatever, it's gonna come up. So, but I won't arrest you until we get done with this project. And then I'll put you in jail. So priorities, yeah, you got priorities. Well, like I said, I've got a couple other meetings to go to, but this is, when I contacted Mike, he didn't even hesitate that you guys would want to participate. And seeing your faces here today, there's, I can just see it on your faces. You would do it today. This afternoon, you'd be ready to go. So that's what I'm looking for. You have, I want eagerness, and I want you guys to, you guys that want to help young men, and I think probably it's all going to be boys, unless we have a girl that just wants to do it. I'm not saying that girls can't. We all need girls that in those kind of fields and everything.
That young lady back there is one of the best modelers in the room.
There you go. Yeah. So, but I'm not going to pressure anybody. I want the kids that want to do this. And I want the kids that never have a chance to do something like this. And maybe it spurs something in their mind, because when they leave 5th grade, and I'm gonna leave the name of the school out since you're recording, but they go to a different school. It's a middle school, and that middle school has a whole lot of problems. And I think part of it is puberty, and part of it is, now I'm in middle school, there's, they don't have to walk in line anymore like they do in elementary, and they kind of just scatter. So I'm trying to change that. In that particular school, call me or you get me offline, I'll tell you what that is. We have a lot of problems. We had a lot of meetings about it over the summer. And I think, we're trying to sway that. So my cards are up here. You never can, you're not bugging me. Call me at midnight, I may not answer. But as soon as I get that message, I'll call you back. I think if we don't have any more questions, go through Mike on, I'll get him a schedule of every time. I'll get you the address. And we would just love to have anybody. And as long as you have the passion. I know some police officers that are like, oh, kids, Lord. They don't have the passion to help kids. I'm good with that. We want somebody that wants to help kids and wants to remember the first time you saw a model train and somebody came over and said, hey, let me show you this. Kind of like, who was it that showed me the layout here? Who was it?
Daryl.
It was you. That kind of deal. Hey, young man, let me show you something over here. Look at this. This started as a flat model, and then we glued it all together and we painted it. So that's the kind of guy I want. And I think everybody sitting here is that guy. So if you have time,
There's no passionate people.
A card.
Thank you very much. I got it.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Got a question for Mike. Yeah. Is this gonna be all new stuff or can you?
Yeah.
It will be new stuff.
Okay.
And that's the plan right now anyway.
Yeah,
Okay? We've got, we're still up and down with it, and so if you've got some other ideas, we listen to them. Sure. All right? Mike and Mike, we'll get together on dates for them to come and visit, so they can see what a grandiose layout looks like. Fair enough? Yeah. And then, from there, right over Reggie's in. Okay. Okay, no problem, no problem. But anyway, somebody reach out, let me, if you wanna put your name on the list, pop me an email, whatever, y'all decide to contact, okay? Thanks, guys, appreciate you.
Thanks, Mike. Mr. Richardson, sir, you're up for APs.
We did have a couple of APs that were awarded last month. Have not received them from National yet, but Eric has got one coming to him, as well as Mr. Crockett and Mr. Garfield. I thought I saw him back there in the back somewhere.
He's here somewhere.
So we should have 3 of them showing up next month. We'll present those then. Each month through this last year, we've been kind of talking about the achievement program as a whole. And one of the things I kind of want to talk about now that we've gotten this.
We've got another meeting going on.
Yeah, I just.
Can we stop that one?
Yeah, we just did.
We've broken down the achievement program each month this year, and we've gotten through service to the hobby. We talked about the motive power and cars for the railroad equipment. We've gone through setting the scene, so we're getting down to the last 3. Now, this month I want to talk about civil. Civil is actually fairly easy. The only really hard part with civil is you have to hand lay 3 different pieces of track. Now, we may even go ahead and talk about electrical as well, just purely for giggles. You'll hear some people say civil and electrical like it's one certificate. It is not, it's actually 2, but here's the thing. There's so much overlap between them, it's real easy to get both doing the same work. For example, in the drawings that you have to do for both, you have to provide a track plan. One of the track plans has to show what your various curve radius are, or your radii, what number turnouts you use.
where grades start and stop. On electrical, you have to show the track plan, but you have to show where your drops are, where your power districts are, where you're, so where you're putting your boosters, that sort of thing. There's a couple of other drawings that are required for both, one of which is with civil, you have to hand lay 3 pieces of track. Well, with electrical, you have to wire 3 pieces of track and show how they work. Well, since you have to demonstrate your hand-laid pieces of track, you got to wire them. Put those 2 together and you've now knocked out both. So it's kind of the same thing. So there's so much overlap, and that's why you hear them talked about together. So if you're working on your layout, if you're working up here on the layout, take an opportunity, look through the requirements and see. You may be able to hand lay a turnout, you may be able to hand lay a crossover. Maybe they'll put in a crossing somewhere, and guess what? You're at 3. Now draw them up, show how they're wired, and work on the other drawings, and poof, you now have civil and electrical. So it's one of those things where as you're building your layout, it's an easy one to get as long as you are willing to try to hand lay a little bit of track. And that's actually not as hard as it might seem. If you've never done it, I know it can seem kind of daunting up front, but it's actually not that difficult. And especially with some of the new things that have come along like fast tracks jigs. Those things make life so much easier. I mean, I was hand laying turnouts on a literally a photocopied turnout taped down to a piece of Homosoap. Made them that way for years. And I can tell you the fast track jigs makes so much faster work out of it because it holds everything in place and you can solder it all together and you're done. And it's engaged all the time. And when I say engage, I mean the distance between the rails and not when they say it wrong and they're talking about somebody's tiny scale.
Normal scale.
Yeah. At any rate, but seriously, give it some thought. I mean, if you're working on your railroad, if you've got room, and there's the thing too, if your railroad's done, don't go, well, I guess I can't do those 2, because you still can. Electrical is easier to get if you've already got your layout done. Just simply draw it up, do the drawings, and boom, you're done. But here's the thing. The 3 pieces of track don't have to be on your layout or even on this layout. You can lay out a length of Homosoap and build them all 3 on that one and have enough track where we can get a piece of motive power through it in every direction, you're done. So if you've even got your layout finished, this is still something you can do fairly easily, and it doesn't take but maybe a piece about as wide as this table to put all 3 pieces of track work on.
Do a test track at home for your own stuff, you can do it all 3.
Bingo, exactly. Exactly. And truth be told, really for a good test track, you need more than just a piece of straight track to be able to sit up there and watch it run back and forth. You really need a turnout to see how well that locomotive will navigate through making turns and things. So, but yeah, keep that in mind as you're working through it. If you've got any other questions, hit me up. You know, I'm pretty much always here. So, I'll be around afterwards during the break, whatever. Catch me.
And you'll be back in a minute.
Yes, sir.
All right. That's our time for Q&A. Is always an interesting time. What questions are you having about your modeling that maybe somebody here can answer? Yes, sir.
I am starting from scratch. I scrapped my N scale layout. I've switched to HO. I'm currently using AnyRail. Is there anybody here that's really good with AnyRail that would be willing to get together with me and give me some pointers on my design so far?
AnyRail is a CAD drawing, right?
Yes.
Okay. There's one behind you.
I said I would design my current layout using AnyRail, and I could even do like maybe a Zoom share screen with you and show you some cool stuff.
Yeah, I'm comfortable using the program at the basic level, but I'll get together with you after the meeting because I'd love to get some more pointers on what's this going to look like operationally.
All right, ask and answer. Anybody else?
Yes. Looking for the supplier of some really, really small pet type LEDs. And, like,
Surface mounts?
Huh?
Surface mounts?
Yeah.
You can probably buy them by the hundreds off of Amazon and get them out of China. There's,
they don't have any service.
have you tried, what is it, We Be Honest?
We Honest.
Yeah, We Honest. You haven't tried them? You might give them a look. And like I say, you can buy them in bulk. You can get them for next to nothing. So it's one of those, get together with your friends and buy that.
Anybody else? Questions? No?
Layout design a bit.
Just came back from the narrow gauge convention. One wasn't good enough. Jeff and I jumped in the car and drove to Denver and did a second one. It was a fun 2 weeks off. It was instantly spoiled the minute I got back to work, but we had a good time. 1,166 people were there. We had 145 entries in the contest room, 30 of which of those were photographs. And just some really wonderful models. But had a really good time. Saw a lot of very interesting layouts. Got to see what 3-foot gauge in Hawaii looks like. That was fun, and a really nice little layout, nice mushroom design. Killer staging yard that he'd set up like a fiddle and had it running with an Arduino and a set of stepper motors, so he could dial it in like dialing in a track to your roundhouse, and his staging yard would swing out and stop and allow you to bring tracks in, trains in. It was really slick, very nicely executed. But in the layout design, saw a couple of things that are, and I'm trying to think of a better way to say this, and I don't want this to sound insulting to anybody, but rookie mistakes, okay? One of the chief problems, and this guy failed on both of these. Number one, in a curve, never, ever have your track joints directly across from one another, because in a curve, all that pressure is going to do is cause them to do this. So clip one rail short and stagger the joint and solder them. This is where a lot of railroaders too also make a bit of a mistake. They'll want to solder every track joint. It's for connectivity. That's what your drops are for. Rail joiners are only there to help hold the ends of the rails together. They do not need to be soldered. If your layout is anywhere where you're not really good climate controlled, your layout, if it's in the garage, for example, and there's no HVAC out there, your railroad will develop hot spots, just like, hot sun kinks like the real thing will if everything's soldered together, because you're not leaving any room for expansion and contraction. The other thing that this gentleman failed on was he would have a turnout immediately off of a curve. And that's a cardinal no-no. You want to try to at least let your locomotive have enough room to get completely straight and back out before trying to get it to diverge off in another direction. So bear those in mind. Easements going in and out of curves really are something a lot of us don't think about. We'll go in there, what's okay, I've hit the end of this peninsula, I need to do a 180, and then I'm going to go into a yard, I'm going to have this big complicated ladder. Why is it I'm always getting on the ground? Well, you don't have an easement coming out of your curve to try to help straighten the locomotive back up, get it straight, and then go into your yard ladder or off into a passing siding or something like that. So if you'll bear those things in mind, they'll help you. They'll really will help you as far as the operations of your layout and keeping you on the rails. There's several old books that have been rehashed probably about a dozen times, talking about layout designs and track planning and things to that effect. A lot have been published going back clear back into the 50s and things. There are still a lot of good things to learn in those books, and you'll find them at like garage sales that the club will do. You'll find them at the train shows coming up, and a lot of them, because they're 40, 50, 60-year-old books, you can get them for $1 or $2. Don't overlook those. There's still some good things to learn in there, and you can pick up a lot of good tips and tricks out of that as far as laying your track out. So, back to you.
Thank you very much. Continuing that a little bit, I'm going to put in a plug for the Rail Design Special Interest Group with the NMRA. Once to their website, they have a tremendous amount of resources on how to design yards, how to design main lines, and how to design branches. It'll boggle your mind. I downloaded it all. If you printed it out, it'd be like 100 pages, double-sided, and it is an incredible amount of information. Their motto is don't make new mistakes, okay? And there's some old mistakes still being made. That's for sure. So again, Layout Design Special Interest Group, there is a link to it from the NMRA national site, and I highly recommend it. If you're building a layout, even if you've got one built, okay, go in there and look and see what you did wrong. Because man, a lot of it's correctable.
They've got a
Yes,
marvelous,
I'm sorry.
they've got a marvelous book that's published by the LDC.
They do.
It's
probably a couple hundred pages.
It covers all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it's an excellent book, and you don't have to be a member to buy it, but if you become a member of the LDC, which is not very expensive if you just do it online, the book is $60, $50, $40, I think, if you're a member. something like that. The book is really, really good.
Memberships $10.
Yeah, memberships and that sort of thing. So, all right. So today there was kind of a note went out. I don't know if anybody saw it or if you all saw it. If you had a model in the contest room, thank you. Call it some celebration room, right? In the contest. In the contest room, you asked to bring your models with you today. Did anybody do that? Oh, raise your hand. Yeah, all right, come on, show us. Oh, it's back here? All right, well, stand up and tell us about it. Yeah, whatever. No, I want you to go first.
I will say one thing, I encourage everybody.
Oh, yeah, very much.
Good job putting it in there. I still saw that great, but I did pretty well at the show. So anyway.
There's like 7 plaques. Okay, so.
That's a kid, I'll take pictures all the time of our models that we're building. And this is my engine house. But it's black and white. It's actually on the first one model. So this actual picture of Walter out. There's got a nice little blackboard. That was kind of cool. That was just the last minute thing, like 2 or 3 days before the convention started, we do this stuff this summer. So see what happens. And then, as y'all, most of y'all know, we doing the Blackfield South product. More last trips up there. There's a picture of them putting water in the 262 skate ball one up there. And just, like, a cool picture. They got working on the railroad second place. Looks just like last minute. So we'll talk to Wayne later about contest too. You guys, that's a question. Anyway, freight car. This is a bell kit. It's just a little $9 car. And they got second place. For that, it's a pretty good car. Highly detailed, braking and all that. I did get criticized because they said the airline. Okay. Anyway, that's the black for that one too. This is the Victory Brewery I did some time back last year. Anyway, did this Dallas-R last year. Didn't place anything, but it did get no flavor ball. So I decided to re-enter it. This year got second year international. And the cool part about it is that Bar Mills, got the Bar Mills award for this. They're actually going to make a kid. No, that's not going to be exact. They're going to produce a kid. And they talk about Carl Wilson Brewery. I'm just kind of proud of that.
Congratulations.
The batteries are all dead on this Big Bill was my little Danbury tall mill. It's kind of weird. I didn't Barry? I should have first one. Kind of a weird deal. They criticized they did my salt leak if you can.
Spot the babies.
Jeez.
My engine house, some other for that, football operate on the line for water. It scored 9 points. But it's going out of all of them. Thing I'm trying to understand that. But then also got the Hunter Line Award. Everybody should exist.
Our line does, they make some wood kits, but they're mainly known for their line of stains.
Right.
So
they've got, 4 or 5 dozen different stain colors now.
Oh, I know. One of those is the down the top, that's a decent color. Wood, that's all. It's kind of nice to get that. So anyway, I want to encourage everybody. I'm talking to something about this, get very models. So good.
Thank you, sir, very much. I know we've got some other show and tells to go on here. I really don't want to cut anybody off. Pick up or keep stuff here, and we all want to hear about it. The mission is online. We told them we're not. I'm seeing it even wait till after 15. So if you have something, please tell us about it right now. But presentation as efficient as possible. Who's next on
I did some photos. We were up on, actually took a trip. I took some pictures while we were out. This is the Cumber's, or the, where was Silver coming out, or Cumber's coming up into Chama, or into Cumber's Pass. I walked back down the track. It was nice. It was about 55 degrees out there with snow all around. And that it is. It was coming up the grade, coming up into Cumber's. And that got 3rd place in color prototype. And then I did walk down into Fort Chama and saw the bridge coming across the Animus. And yeah, and just thought it looked like a bridge back into time. So much history had gone through that bridge, and so I kind of framed it up like that, took a picture and everything. Again, it was coming up with a storm and rained on me all the way back to the car. But anyway, that one got 2nd place, so walking my prototype.
All right, thank you.
Very quickly, on September 30th in Albuquerque, New Mexico, I'm conducting a night photo shoot with the 2926. It's a fundraiser for the engine. I'll be there to help budding photographers to take night photos of the 2926. Again, that's September 30th in the evening. Actually, it's an event over that weekend, and I'll leave these flyers up here, and you can learn more about it at the website. That's it.
All right, thank you very much. So up here with our other galleries here, okay? Yes.
Yeah, I did so I work with soundtracks quite a bit. They don't pay me or nothing like that, but I do quite a bit of locomotive stuff, converting OTC blue boxes because that's all I can afford. And I did that with this is a Blue Nami. I worked with soundtracks. I entered a contest, and I did a video, and it won a free Blue Nami, and I put it in this DC blue box. So we can test it out after the meeting today. It will run on an Android, and I finished it last night. Only thing is, it is a tight little space. This even has a capacitor. So we were able to do it. It's pretty cool. My locomotives have all the LEDs on it and stuff, so good like that.
Thanks, sir.
So, this is one of the models I took to the contest room. It was a Sierra West kit. I entered in dioramas. It ended up scoring 106 and got 1st place for dioramas. I also had a favorite train. They got 1st place. A bridge that took home kitted up structures 1st place. A NBC Shay locomotive that took home kit built steam engines 1st place, and 1st place locomotives for that one. So 4 entries, 5 1st place, and I only brought this one today because I went right here.
We want that. Thanks, sir. All right. Anybody else from National Convention? Yes, ma'am.
I did not bring my paintings, but I think you've all seen them. For my Respondent Railroad.
Thank you.
I won 1st place for Railroad 80th.
Cool.
And then for the one, I affectionately call it Cowcatcher, but had the Longhorn right in front of it, I won 3rd place.
All right, very good.
Good job. I didn't carry mine either, but yeah, I got honorable mention in freight, second place in passenger cars, and first place in maintenance award.
Outstanding.
Congratulations.
The Z-scale box cab.
That thing was amazing. If you didn't see it, the little locomotive was
If
about.
you could see.
Yeah, it was about that big. Now, I don't know what neighborhood this guy lives in, but if you live next door to him, you probably know what he's modeling, because when he fires up his electron microscope so you can see it, it dims the lights in the neighborhood. There were, what was it, 160 some odd little bitty parts in this thing? I mean, the whole thing was maybe about that long. It was tiny. But if you flip through his write-up, and that's one of the things, you know, I always tell you guys, the same thing Russell said, get in the contest room. Even if you don't enter something, come in, don't just look at the stuff. You pick up the write-ups, read through how they built it, because you're going to learn a lot doing that. If you get a chance to talk with the modelers, ask them, how did you do your rust? How did you do your metal roofing? You know, that sort of thing. You can learn a ton in that room. And you didn't think anything about that little bitty locomotive until you picked up the write-up and started reading through it and looking at all the photographs.
Did he build his own motor?
It was a stunning bit of work. And yeah, really, really nice model, and it did well. I was very happy with it.
Best in show.
Yeah.
Best in show,
Yeah.
right?
I think so. Yeah.
Best in show, built his own motor and his own motor. I walked by it, I couldn't even see what the heck it was. But somebody took a picture of it next to me, and he enlarged it, and I said,
oh, that. Yeah.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. I have a model up here. Who's this? Yes, sir.
This was, something I was doing recently.
Oh, oh!
You got it.
Inside, sit back down now.
Yeah.
I don't know who it was.
Anyway, this was a buildings and structures. This was a building and structures kit. It was 5 different outhouses in the whole kit. It was in part of a clinic 4 or 5 years ago. I finally decided to finish it. But I decided to do something a little different with the 2-stall outhouse. And I made it into a shower house for the logging camp up here. So you'll see that it's got minimum size of the shower, got a towel over the fence here. The towel actually has a black stripe over the bottom of it. You've got the water tanks for the 55-yard drums for the showers. You've got a garden hose. That took about 30 minutes before we pulled that piece of wire so it looked flexible like a hose. But I put it on the skids like logging camps would have. I had a comment that OSHA probably wouldn't have liked all the black mold. Well, they really weren't that active at logging camps. So they had a problem. But anyway, I thought it came out pretty well. The 2 little outhouses I made up. This one's got the roll of paper you see there. So it'll be fine. It's going to be welcome to logging camp.
Daryl, what study did you use on the wood?
Mostly just UV alcohol.
There's a new line of stains that's come out in the last year from Best, called Federo.
Yeah.
From the little glass bottles of like old booze bottles. They've got a color called Swamp Rock. And they've got a color called Ivy, green ivy. Yeah. And it makes really nice for something like this. You can come in and put it on there, and it gives you kind of that.
Yeah, this has got I got a green stain on some of this. It's a light green because you would have a mold in it as well. And it's also actually wet. There you go. Little shower house. But anyway, I thought I'd be kind of a shower house.
All right. Last call for show and tell. That's it? All right. Please, 5 minutes. Take care of your biological needs. What, 4 minutes? 4 minutes, he said. All right, biological needs. I guess there's maybe coffee and donuts left in the back. Don't forget to feed the kitty, please. Stuff ain't free. Thank you. All right, we're back at it. Here's our beginning of our clinic. We want to welcome Bob Frankrone, Louisville, Kentucky, I think. And
correct.
We'll get him on board right now. Here he is. Welcome, Bob.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me to present at your Cowcatcher Division meeting this morning. I want to thank Jim, who's been corresponding with me, and also Mike Mackey. Appreciate the invitation, gentlemen, and hopefully you will walk away with some tidbits of information, or if nothing else, have a good time looking at some slides of prototype and model trains. So I'm trying to share my screen and it says I'm disabled. So the host has disabled my screen sharing.
Give me a second here to get this.
Hey, not a problem.
I'm gonna make you the host. There we go. All right, you're in. Can you get it now?
I think so.
All right, there we go.
Can you all see me?
Yep.
Let me do some things on my end. Okay. Again, let me thank Jim and Mike. Appreciate the invitation. And without further ado, I'll get going. A couple of disclaimers. I always like to let the audience know what to expect, what I'm about, so there's no false expectations on what you're going to see today. First of all, I'm not a master model railroader. I am an average modeler with average modeling skills. And what that means is anything that I model, you can model too, and probably do it better. I model what I like, not necessarily what is prototypically correct. So some models in this presentation may be offensive to rivet counters. So why clinic on open loads? Well, because to me, nothing is as interesting, as fascinating, or as eye-catching as an open load car. So let's take a quick look at some of the prototype. Just about anything can be an open load. Some cement mixers. And open loads have been around as long as railroads have been around. That's a pretty dated photo. The military uses loads to haul a lot of their equipment. Those are antiquated 5-inch gun mounts from years gone past. Corning's Glass is very proud of their Pyrex lens. They make it known that, hey, we made this thing. Sectional track can be hauled in gondolas, oversized loads. These so-called hospital cars where damaged equipment is hauled back for scrap or repair, depending on the amount of damage. So let's take a look at some prototype and some representational models. Now, notice the word I use here is representational. So, there's people out there who model exactly what they see. And they're excellent modelers, these railroad prototype modelers, for example. They are, if I see it and it looks like this, that's how I'm going to model it. I don't take that particular stand. I will create a representational model that to me will be adequate to show what I'm trying to show. So here's a common load of structural I-beams, H-columns, and that's easily made with styrene that you can purchase at any hobby shop. These are evergreen styrene H-columns. And that's the load that I made. Just cut them up, paint them gray. I added a little bit of extra detail by putting the lengths on here. I just, with a fine tip brush, just weighted it in. And everything you see here is like the standoffs, that's just scale lumber scraps that I have lying around. This is a heavy duty thread that you can get like at a Joanne Crafts or something like that. And the banding that I use, and you'll see this in a lot of my models, I'll go ahead and tell you what that is now. It's 1/32 inch striping tape, used to be called chart tape. You can get that online at Amazon. Used to be able to get it at fine art stores, but not so much anymore with the computer graphics kind of taking over that market. But you can still get it online. I use it. You can get it in flat. You can get it in gloss. This is a little bit of a sheen to it to make it look like it's metallic. And that's what I use to bind most of my loads. Again, I'm HO scale, it's 1/32. Obviously, you would adjust that if you're in N or O scales. In Louisville, Kentucky, which is where I'm from, we have 2 Ford motor plants, a truck plant and an automotive plant, and they're always getting truck frames in on flat cars. My wife took this from the front seat of the car as we were waiting at a traffic crossing, and I went ahead and built the load. It's a kit. You can Google auto frames, and I think there are a couple of companies in HO anyway that make this particular kit. It comes on sprues, and you cut it off and you just stack them up. I did make just scratch styrene structural components, a couple of tie down fixtures, and that's nothing more than like 20 thousandths brass wire painted primer red. This is a very simple load to make. Steel plates. You can get some sheet styrene. I think I used 20 thousandths for this. You cut them to length. You spray paint them, tops only. I don't spray paint the bottoms, just lay them out on a sheet of newspaper or something. I do all my spraying outside. I don't have a spray booth. You, again, use scale lumber to sort of separate the sheets from each other. The banding once again. And notice on this, I simulated the little crimping rings. That's not red paint. Red paint really doesn't show up well on a black surface, and its paint is one-dimensional. So I use fingernail polish. Fingernail polish is very thick. You get a bright red or whatever color you want your crimping rings to be, and you just dab a little bit on there, and it's so thick you get a little three-dimensional effect. It's not as obvious in the photographs, but when you look at the model close up, you get sort of a three-dimensional appearance to it. Again, the banding, and then the heavy duty thread that I use. And if you use regular sewing thread, that's too thin, at least for HO scale, might look great in N scale. So again, I use this heavier, it's like a coat thread, or it's almost like a thin cord in a way. I think it does a better job. It's an old photograph. This was recently run, I think, in the last article of the NMRA magazine. I like this particular load. I bought a 3D printed model of that from Multiscale Digital. They do a fine job of designing actual pieces of machinery that were used years ago when we were in an industrial society. That's a Bachmann flat car that kind of simulates the prototype. I put, again, nothing but scrap lumber, position where the mounting points would be on that particular load. And that's my representational model, complete with a sign saying who the manufacturer was. And nowadays with home computers, you can just make that in Microsoft Word or PowerPoint or something like that. Print the sign out, print it to scale, cut it out, and then I fasten it to like 10,000 styrene or something and just glue it down. Now notice here, instead of the 1/32 banding, I use what I think would simulate a canvas strap, and that is 1/16 inch. It's like a ribbon-like material. It's more of a cloth based, but it's 1/16 inch wide. Again, for HO, that is good. And of course, I added some detail that the prototype didn't have. This is just scale lumber, probably 2x8s or something that I just glue in place, and then I band it to kind of hold it together. So that's my representational model. gentleman by the name of Matt Snell. He's in our mid-central region. He's an excellent modeler. He runs articles. I called him and asked if I could use this photo, and he graciously agreed, because I like that car so much. I went ahead and built it. And the ties are actually northeastern scale ties. They're full profile ties. What that means, if you look at them on end, they're not flat. They're full profile. They're like a complete rectangle, and that's important for this load because you could see the ends of the ties. If you use something that is just flat, it wouldn't look right. So, I make the bundles. I think there are 20 ties in the bundle. It's wood, so I use white glue to glue them together. And then I take all those bundles and I use India ink and alcohol. I just put it in a little plastic lunch bag, and I'll dump in about 6 or 7 bundles at a time and pull them out, let them dry on a paper towel. It's a quick process. I don't paint those all. I just, again, dump them and pull them out with a pair of tweezers, let them dry. If you want them darker, the first time I did this, they weren't dark enough. You can see the prototype, they're pretty dark. You just put them back in the mixture, or you can add more India ink to your alcohol solution and make it darker. But anyway, whatever works. Once again, I banned it, the red fingernail polish, because to me, if a detail doesn't show, then what's the point of having a detail? I mean, you can't see any of that on the prototype, and it's kind of dull. I wanted to be able to see it. I had a little yellow marker that I went out to mark, just like on the prototype, some of the whatever markings they put on the ties to designate where they might go or whatever. So, and I used again a heavy thread to tie it down. I didn't use black because it would sort of disappear on the black ties, so I used a lighter color again so that you can see it. And by the way, since there were so many people in the contest room at the National, you may have seen this. This won popular vote for photo match. That was the photo I sent, and that was the model. So, not pulpwood, but a wood chip load. That's my rendition of that. And I took a dowel rod and ran it through a pencil sharpener, one of those old hand crank sharpeners that you used to see in the classrooms, at least back in my day, 50 years ago. And I have a false bottom in the car, take the shavings, just dump them out, and I use diluted white glue and pour it on top, and the load doesn't go anywhere. It's a very simple load to make. Now, this is an interesting load. It's obviously a non-revenue load. This was in a yard on a tourist line, and it seems like wherever I go, to ride tourist railroads, they pull you through their yard at one point, and they've always got a flat car or a gondola with just miscellaneous junk or scrap just thrown out there, right? I mean, just don't know where to put it. For now, just lay it on the flat car, because the flat car probably hadn't been moved in a year or more. So I thought, it's something on a flat car, so technically it's a load. So I just kind of modeled that by just putting junk on there, just little pieces of this. There's a barrel on there with trash in it, an old skid, some chain, some wire, just junk that's lying around. That's not even glued down. I just set it on there. So if I'm tired of it, I just dump it out and then start out with a clean car. So anyway, interesting load. Again, these so-called hospital cars that haul damaged equipment. I like this picture. This was done in the NMRA magazine years ago, back when it was the Bulletin, and I liked it. So I went out and bought a kit and damaged it and put it on a flat car, and that's my representational model. Again, Matt Snell, like I said, he's a great modeler. He did this load in Model Railroader magazine, I think, and I liked it so much I copied it. And that's nothing more than 1/8 inch styrene rod, solid rod that you just, with a little chopper tool, you cut it to place. You build up the little bundles. Again, same, using scale lumber as standoffs, 1/32 inch tape to band it, and you just tie it down to the car, and you've got a pretty representational model of that load. So, quick story about this car. I call this the anniversary car. My wife took this photo. So, it was like our 42nd anniversary or something. We were going to dinner that night, and the restaurant where we were going was at the we had to the road leading to the restaurant paralleled a railroad track, a class 1 railroad track, for about, I don't know, maybe 2.5, 3 miles. And so while we were driving, and this is an urban area, okay, so the speed limits are controlled, I think 25-mile max. So a train pulls up next to us, and my wife says, "Oh, look at this open load. I'm going to take a picture of it." And I said, "Well, good luck, because the car is moving, the train is moving, and on this boulevard, there's trees about every 30 foot, equally spaced, urban planning and nature and all that." So I said, "Good luck." So she took the photo, and this is what she got. So we have our dinner, we're eating dessert, drinking a little bit of coffee, and she said, "Oh, let's look at that picture. I want to show you my picture." And so she looks at it and she says, "Doggone it, I got a tree right in the middle." So I looked at it and I said, "Well, the car is centered in the frame." I said, "That's a good thing. Considering the train was moving at about 25 miles an hour, I was trying to match the speed in my car. So we're moving, and these daggone trees." I said, "That's actually a pretty good photo, all things considered." So she said, "Well, thank you." And about half a minute later, she says, "Well, you're going to build it, aren't you?" Well, I guess there's a reason I was married 42 years and knowing when to say yes. And so I did build that load, and there it is. Yeah, complete with the tree. So that load was really quite easy to build. Again, you use evergreen styrene pieces. I use square tube, as you can see. I cut them to length, glued 3 of them together, and to get rid of the seam, I used 10,000th sheet styrene and just put it on the top and on the ends to cover up the ends. Don't need to do the bottoms, because the bottoms you don't see. And then I just filed everything smooth, and I painted it and strapped it down accordingly. So that's all that is, nothing to it. So common miscellaneous hardware and plumbing items can be used to create a realistic flat car load. So I never overlook anything when I go to the hardware store. I'm always, I'll go for a purpose because I need to fix something at home, but I'm always keeping an eye out for something I can possibly use as a load. And the plumbing aisle is loaded with things that you can lose. And these are just bits and pieces that are readily available at a very nominal cost. That whole thing there probably costs less than $2 or something. And you can glue them together. You can paint them, strap them down onto a flat car. I use leftover decals that I have from these Walther's Cornerstone kits. And I just, because I like my loads to be colored. Again, I'm not a prototypical modeler or prototype modeler. Okay. I like my loads to kind of stand out, and people look, it catches their eye and say, "Oh, okay." And yet have some kind of plausibility. I'm not talking about something just so outlandish that would never exist, but that to me is a very plausible load. It's just the T section. I dummied up the openings with 10,000 styrene, and this is just sprues from an old kit that I didn't use, from my scrap thing, an old brake wheel, a couple of them here. And then I just created some kind of concoction to hold it. I don't sit down and draw these things out. I kind of imagineer it. And I look and say, well, it's a circular, so maybe a V-like cradle would hold it. And that's what I do. And again, one, same as the load, couple loads ago, just a little bit bigger. I was in a hardware store looking for a tool, and I came across this 100-amp fuse. It was $8. And I said, that's about the size of a flat car. I mean, it's the right width, it's the right length. I said, for $8 investment, what the heck? If I can use it, I can use it. If not, I can't. And so that's what I did. I painted it up. I made some little mounting fixture. Again, this is nothing but scale lumber. This is quick and easy to do. White glue and an emery board and a chopper tool. Make a little sign, "Do not hump." But somebody asks me what it is, I'll say it's a flux capacitor. I don't know what it is, but anyway, I like how it looks, and to me that's that's my game. That's what I'm after. So one of the conventions that the Mid-Central region put on several years ago, we took a tour of a steel processing plant, manufacturing plant. And when we went outside, I saw these and I knew immediately, I said, I'm going to make a load of these end caps. I didn't know how I was going to do it because I can't fabricate a rounded piece like that. There's no way I'm skilled enough to. Some of you guys might be able to, guys or girls might be able to, but I certainly can't. But I saw that picture and I took it and I said, all right, how am I going to do that? Well, the hardware store. I saw these things are little things that you put underneath your furniture to either protect it if you had hardwood floors, or protect a carpet, or maybe if you want to slide it or whatever. I saw these and they were about, you can see 2 1/8 inches. I said, that's about the right size for HO scale. They're not ideal, but they do have the curved edges and all that. And I said, well, I'm going to give these a try. So I bought these, took them home, and that's the load I made. So I just, this is real simple to do these supports. I just glue these to the car. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of just scrap styrene that I have lying around, and I duplicate it, put it on the other side. This is the leftover, that 1/8 inch rod I had left over from another project. I just glue these down, paint them black, glue them down. And this is just like a little gauze material from a Band-Aid, you just wrap it around so that the offer protection so that the stainless steel end cap doesn't get damaged. And it's, just little things like that. Again, another do not hump sign, easy to do. So I was in the hobby shop one day and I saw these hanging on the wall and I said, that's a load. How am I going to support it? Well, there's my chopper tool. There's my scale lumber 8x8. I just made these little triangular fixtures. It's not, again, I'm not a craftsman by any means, like some of the people I've seen in inner models in the contest room, but I can do simple stuff like this, and you can too. And that's my load. Again, I like, Bethlehem Steel is proud of those gears, so they wanted to advertise it. So everyday household items can also be used to create fun and unusual flat car loads. Everybody has some kind of Scotch tape or cellophane tape at home, right? What do you do when it's empty? You throw it away? Well, I don't. I take the spools out and then I throw the rest of it away. And you can make a load out of that. So, and I just set them in a flat car and I created, some kind of, again, eye-catching woodwork here to hold the load. No, I've never seen a prototype car like this. That's all right. Sewing machine bobbins. This is one of the very first open loads I made, and I didn't come up with this idea. I copied it out of a magazine, right? We all steal from each other. Let's face it. That's why we go to clinics and conventions and go to meetings like this because, hey, how did you do that? Tell me. Now I'm going to do it that way. We all copy and steal from each other. And for me, that's fine, So I saw this article and I had a picture of it. And so I said, I think I can do that. And I just, follow the article and that's how I came up with that load. These are crushed bales of steel. Aluminum foil does a great job of representing that. I find that about a 2-inch strip from a standard length roll of foil will wad up to be about the right size. And then I do a final compression with a pair of pliers, which is great because it leaves the jaw marks from the pliers on the aluminum. So it kind of looks like it's been squeezed by a hydraulic press. So it's kind of nice. So, but with any load, it's all about the finishing, right? So I don't know, maybe I have 30 of those things in there. Again, I use, in this case, acrylic black paint that's diluted. I put it in a little lunch bag and I just dump them all in there, swish it around and pull them out, let them dry on a paper towel. And then I load them into the car, and the weathering, rust and so on and so is nothing but weathering powders. In fact, I use Bragdon. They have a rust pack. They get 4 different colors of rust, and I just take a brush and I brush it on a little bit here and there in different colors. And, you get a reasonable, looks like it could be steel that's been compacted and rusted. So, and not very hard at all. If it's hard, generally I don't do it. So, everybody uses toothpaste, and another idea I stole from somebody else. You can empty out the tube, clean out all the residue, and you can cut those up. Now, the new, unfortunately, the newer toothpastes are all like plastic in it, so it doesn't. It's a different material, so you can't like bend it. Like, you notice the inside of this tube is, it's kind of still a little. The outside is plastic, but the inside is still a little metallic. So you can bend it, and you see the little bends. It has, it's malleable. So you cut enough of them, you put them in the car. And again, before I do that, I put them in a little lunch bag with diluted black paint and acrylic paint, and just pour the paint out down the sink or wherever, and then dump those out on a paper towel, load them into a car, and then I go through, because they don't all get covered. That's all right. It looks like, shiny. You can tell it's steel, right? It's shiny steel. And then I go through and with diluted white glue, and I just pour it all over the top of that, just pour it in. And if it's all right, if it's puddles in the bottom, that's fine. And then when it dries, I go through and dust it with the weathering chalks, and that's what you get. Again, not hard at all. The hard thing about this project, that I didn't do a false bottom. The very first one I did had a false bottom. I never liked it. It actually was the one that ran in the magazine probably the second year I was doing the column. I never liked it because it looked like a molded load, like Chooch or somebody like that makes. Not that there's anything wrong with those, don't get me wrong. So I redid it, and that's not a false bottom. So it's the real thing. It's all stacked in there, and it doesn't look like it's been molded because everything is just randomly placed. And the white glue holds it in perfectly. I don't have those flake off at all. Again, the finishing is what makes it stand out. Occasionally we surf the web looking at train photos. A lot of people use these webcams and all that, but I go on and like railpics.com or whatever. And I saw this load. Now, as soon as I saw this load, to me, and this is a prototype load, okay? To me, what did I notice? Oh, look how bright it is. Look at that bright blue, okay? Oh my God, look at all this scale lumber here, right? Look at all this band. That's what I do, right? I mean, scale lumber, banding, bright colors. I can build a representational model of that load. So how am I going to do it? Well, again, here's my empty tape spools. You remember Tyco used to make the flat cars with these little sewer pipes on here? These little, I've got probably a dozen of these just lying around. You get these at swap meets for 50 cents or something, And then the only thing I bought for this load is these 2 1-inch copper couplings, okay? And they were probably $1 a piece or something. I don't know, only because copper is so expensive. So that's so I'm going to make so here's the prototype load. Right. And I'm going to do representational. I'm not going to necessarily create all of this nonsense here or all that nonsense up at the top. I'm just going to do a representational model using what I have and what I know how to do. And there's my model of that load.
Looks great.
Well, thank you. Nothing but scale lumber tied down with the banding. Notice the shine on it, because I get a gloss finish instead of a matte finish. And this is my 1/16 inch ribbon material that is used to be to represent like a canvas tie down. Structural styrene, I just made the stops here, and I didn't have all the top stuff. It's too hard, and I just used some structural wood here and built a little frame and just used these little caulks to keep it from rolling off the thing. But anyway, representational. So railroads have long been expert at hauling things that you can't otherwise haul across the road or whatever. That is super heavy items. Take a look at this. This is, I think this is like a 350 ton, it's going to a nuclear plant. I forget, it's a containment facility of some kind. And notice the cars, it's 2 flat cars. The load is distributed among 2 flat cars. Each flat car has 4 3-axle trucks, right? That's 24 wheels on this thing alone, times 2. That's 48 wheels. That's all the car is a flat surface on 24 wheels to distribute that weight, okay? 350 tons or something like this. My buddy Gary Lozelle took this photo and he said I could use it. Again, similar thing, 2 cars, each of them with 4-axle trucks, 4 3-axle trucks. And that's a humongous load built by the Chicago Bridge and Iron Company. And again, back in the day, I guess people really wanted to advertise. I mean, look at that thing. It's no mistake who built that load. So I couldn't do anything that big, but I was on the interstate stopping at a rest area right after sunset. And I came across this thing, which was bigger than any, in terms of overall length, any of the loads you just saw. I mean, look at that, right? They were just disconnecting the cab when I pulled up, because I'm sure they have restrictions that these things can only be moved in daylight hours, not at night. I'm estimating that to be about 110, maybe 120 feet long. I mean, it's just incredible. I had no idea they could transport something like that over the interstate highway, but that's proof. There it is. So I took that shot and I said, you know, I can't do a rail car that big, but I had a cylinder at home that was about a scale 100 feet. And so I put it on one of these long 89-foot flat cars that they handled pipe. And I painted it up and put some decals left over from other kits, and I strapped it down with the cable-like substance. And so that's my heavy duty load. Now it's a steel tank, but it's not solid. So, so I can carry it on a flat car with only 2 trucks. This isn't a 350 ton load, but again, representational model. This was a kit made by Precision Design Company. They made 3 rather large loads, cleverly named Extreme Load number 1, Extreme Load number 2, and Extreme Load number 3. But nonetheless, they made this kit. It's a laser cut kit, and there it is. And it's really a nice kit. Unfortunately, the company no longer produces these. You may be able to get these on eBay or at swap meets or whatever, but they make nice kits. So this is a company photo from Bethlehem Steel, circa 1940s, maybe early 50s. All right, it's a pretty large item. So Multiscale Digital actually makes that item. And I bought one. Again, it's a 3D printed part. This is the first experience with 3D printed parts. And I have to tell you that I didn't have to clean up this item, no flash. There was nothing, other than washing it off, in case there was any thing that would prevent paint from adhering. I didn't do anything to that item other than wash it off, paint it, and then mount it on a flat car. Gondola loads. Yeah, so gondolas, they're like the most universal, because you can put anything in the gondola. I mean, I like to refer to them sometimes as the garbage cans of the railroad, because just look, I mean, you can put anything in these things, right? So I was walking across a parking lot one day and I looked down and I saw like a 12-inch piece of rusted steel that was maybe fell off of somebody's pickup truck or a quarter panel or something. And, unless you're a super expert model, I can't get real rusted steel. I can't get plastic to look like real rusted steel. So that's the real McCoy. Now, having said that, this car is heavy, but I don't operate a lot of my loads. I use them as static displays in industrial areas on the layout. But the beauty about this, keep your eyes open. That rusted piece of metal, and again, it was maybe 10, 12 inches long, thin. Again, I'm sure it fell off of somebody's car because it was in a parking lot. I just took it home and it was already, it looked just like that. All I had to do is break it up, and I used 2 sets of just standard pliers and just wiggled it back and forth until it broke up and created a nice load. And then I just threw it in the car. I don't even glue that down. It's heavy enough. It's not going anywhere. And it's static, so the car doesn't move. I'm not worried about it dumping over, because you'd have a mess, right, with electrical track, and then you got actual steel. But anyway, the trick to this load was weathering the car. I mean, the load itself was, nature made it. We have a daily sand train, the Ohio River, which Louisville is on the Ohio River. It has to be dredged to keep it open for navigation. The sand builds up, it's not a deep river, and so the sand over time would build up. So they dredge it, and they're not going to throw anything out. So we have a sand facility that's just, the Ohio River is in the background here. That's just off the river, and every day, every night, usually around 5:30, 6 o'clock, a sand train of about 10 to a dozen cars, R.J. Corman, it's a unit train, pulls out and goes from Louisville to Lexington, Kentucky. Now, I don't know what they do with the sand in Lexington, but it's an everyday occurrence, and that's a lot of sand. So one of the car manufacturers came out with the R.J. Corman, and, I've got sand left over from my daughter's sandbox when she was 3 and 4. She's now, 38. But sand has no shelf life. So, model railroaders generally don't throw anything out. So I thought one day I'd use the sand, and that's my representational model, complete with the decal. If you notice on the prototype, there's a little decal right here, right there. So anyway, so I mentioned before, weathering a gondola, because these things take a beating, whether they're in scrap service or just regular, whatever kind of service they're in. They generally are more beat up than any other car in a consist. So, and it can have a dramatic impact on its appearance. So there's out of the box, I don't know who makes this particular car, but you can see the metal wheels are all shiny, and man, the paint is crisp and clear and everything. I mean, the inside is just, not very realistic, right? But if you spend some time weathering it, you could get it to look like that. So, not hard to do. I mean, it takes a little practice, like anything, right? Anything you do takes a little practice. I watched a clinic or two, and that's what I end up with. And you can see, look, you can't even, because that car looks like it's a white car, that might be a Sioux Line car, but you can't, it's so beat up, you can't even tell it, right? So that's my Sioux Line car. So I like that, and also, graffiti, there's been some discussion, some people don't like, I'm not going to put graffiti on a car. You shouldn't have that, but let's face it, go out and rail fan somewhere, find a car without graffiti on it. That's a rarity anymore. It's like every car that passes by seems to have a graffiti, like that. Okay. So they're out of the box. That's a Walther's car they came out with last year. It's like a 65 footer, I think. And you can weather it up. And those are decals. I don't do my own, some people are artists. They can write their own graffiti on a car, and some people can do their own decals and all that. I just buy them from Blair Line or whatever. It's a trick to get them on, to make sure, especially when you have these ribs sides. Look, you can't even see in the dark photo. You can barely see the ribs, but look how when you weather the car, they really pop out. They really stand out. So you can see a lot of detail. So the trick is, getting them to sit down, but with the Solvaset or whatever you use to make your decals, you can do it. Just takes a little patience. So, and also, don't know if you noticed on a lot of my flat cars, they have wood decks, because, that's what a plastic deck looks like. That's just a basic blue box Walther's 40-foot flat car. And if you have a plastic deck, all that is scale lumber, 2x6. If it's a 50-foot car, I use 2x8. And I just lightly sand the deck, okay, to give it a little bit of rough surface. And then I apply white glue, wood and white glue on plastic. I have some of these cars. This car right here is probably 30 years old and never lost a board off of it. White glue on plastic that's been sanded first, and so thin you apply it with the tip of a toothpick. So not hard at all, but it takes a while. And I don't do a whole car at once. I'll do maybe 10 boards, come back the next night. And if you want a 15-minute project, you can do 10 boards in 15, 20 minutes, but it really, you tell me which car you'd rather have on your layout. So miscellaneous, I was driving one day and I saw this parked on the side of a road in an industrial place. And I said, oh man, I like that. I like that red on black. You know, that's catching my eye. So I just made it. I went home. This is like a tube from what do you call a paper towel tube, you know, circular. And this is some square styrene sheet, probably 40 thousandths that are glued to the end, and put some stuff here. This is my 1/16 inch ribbon that I painted red, and that's my representational model. I was driving by a Southern Indiana farm, big farming community. Saw this at a dealership. Walters makes a similar kit, a little combine kit, and you get that attachment, and you get the fork attachment like that for corn. And so I just built the kit, not all the way, put it on a flat car. The tires, you know, little details like the little canvas straps here so that the steel cable won't cut into the softer rubber tire. I think I scratch build this little pallet here. You know, they're not hard to do. And this is the bonus kit. I got 2 loads for 1 kit. Those are the 2 front end attachments. I just built a little crate-like structure, and that was that. You know, this is a 16-inch gun that's in Fort Miles, Delaware. It's a relic from World War II when we thought our shoreline was vulnerable. And so they keep this as sort of a reminder of how things were back in the day. And that is a 16-inch, this opening is 16 inches across. That's huge. I mean, the shell probably weighs 2,500 pounds and is as tall as I am. I'm 6 foot tall. So anyway, that's a big gun, needless to say. They do use rail cars. Notice it's a heavy duty car here, the 4 trucks, the 2 trucks on each end. So they do move these things around. You can get an idea of the size of this gentleman here, the size of this thing. Okay. American Model Builders makes a kit, and it's a 16-inch gun barrel kit. And everything you see except the car is included in the kit. And what I like about their kit is look at the detail on this kit. Now, this is a little bit more difficult to build. Sometimes I do build hard things, but this was a little bit more difficult, but I really like it. Even the stencil do not hump sign was part of the kit. It's incredible. It comes on paper, you cut it out, mount it on styrene. So, but that's available. And these kits are, you know, 16 to 20 bucks or whatever. American Model Builder makes a lot of great looking stuff. They make this I-beam kit, for example. That's the prototype. Notice 3 cars, right? It's quite lengthy. That's American Model Builders. I think, you know, less than $20. Everything you see but the car. And you put this together. I mean, it comes flat. And when I first got it, and I said, that's not going to work. It's not wood. It's not plastic. It's a composite material that goes together, peel and stick, if you can believe it. I didn't use any glue building this thing, and it is as straight as an arrow, no warping. I just, you know, the technology behind some of the materials today is incredible. I was riding my bike in Nashville, where my daughter lives, on the bike trail that went through an industrial section of town, and I saw these things, and I said, you all go ahead. I'm going to take a few pictures. I'm on public property. I'm on the bike trail. I just kind of stepped off of it, and I saw these. I said, that's going to be an open load. So didn't have any idea how I was going to make it, but I had some drywall tape at home left over from a project, and it's a little bit too wide. So what I did is just cut it down the center, and then I made these little coil things. And again, I used diluted brown paint, dumped them in a lunch bag, and that's how I painted them all. I'm sorry? Was there a question? All right, anyway. So that's the load I built. That's a standard 60-foot bulkhead flat car that I just added some stakes, nothing but scale lumber. I kind of, you know, carved them so they fit in the stake pocket. I didn't even glue them down. I just shoved them in the pocket. And this is 24 gauge annealed wire that I had from other projects. And it's great because you can bend it and hold its shape. And then I just, you know, dabbed a bit of super glue on each one of the touch points. And so now I have a specialty car to hold this load. And it wasn't difficult at all to do that, to modify that car. So use your imagination. There are lots of items that can be loads. I was walking along at my health club one day, and before I went in, I saw this thing laying on the ground. And I knew what it was immediately because 30 years ago, I remember reading an article in the NMRA magazine about spent nuclear rod cars. And they had pictures of 3 of them, and there was no standardization. All 3 of them were different. They were all some kind of crazy concoction, some dome shape, some cylinder shape, but they were all unique cars specifically uh, uh, to get rid of rods from nuclear power plants, right? So you can see the size of it here. So I went home. I didn't know. So I said, well, I might put some cooling fins because I guess nuclear rods, even spent ones, might be warm. So I better put some cooling fins on it, just, plastic pieces that I have at home, right? That's a medicine cap that I put some I-beams that I cut. And there's my spent nuclear fuel rod car. You can go online and do an icon of radioactive material, and you can get no shortage of these signs. So I just glued a couple of them on there to warn people, don't mess with this car, don't vandalize this car. So, and if you if you check out a prototype, Google a nuclear fuel rod car, it looks as weird as that. Trust me. Another multi-scale digital, they not only designed, but they used to print their 3D models, but now they no longer print them. They entered into an agreement with Shapeways. And so in order to eliminate their inventory, they had a 3-for-1 sale. And I think each one of these by themselves cost $15, but they said, hey, we're going to get rid of our inventory. So you buy one, we'll give you 2 extras. So 3 of them I thought would be perfect on a flat car in terms of the overall length. And I like that junction that they have, the 4-way junction there. And 3D printed, I did have to clean these up a little bit more than I had some of the other stuff, mainly because of all the joints that they have. But anyway, I built a couple of pallets using my chopper tool on the left there, just white glue with a toothpick. I mean, everybody has white glue. Everybody probably has toothpicks around, and you can just build these things. They go together really, really quickly. I don't draw them up. I don't have a plan. I just, measure the width of the car and the item that I'm going to carry. And then that's my load. Again, I like, I've spray painted baby blue color because it stands out. I used, because I didn't want cables to tie it down, I used this strapping tape, or excuse me, 1/16 inch ribbon to represent canvas strapping. And that's my load. At the National in 2019 in Salt Lake City, this was on one of the tours, the copper mine, I forget the name, Kennecott Copper Mine, Salt Lake City, Utah. That's a big tire. And yeah, they big tires. I don't have a shot on one on the railroad, but I got one going across the interstate. It's a pretty good sized tire. Now, I couldn't find any tires that big, but I saw this device online. They were like closing them out for like $5, $6 each. And I said, well, each one of those has 6 tires. They're bigger than normal. So I bought like 3 of them and took the tires off, put the rest in my scrap box for future whatever. Made some pallets, again, using my chopper tool. And it goes, if you have a chopper tool like that, it goes really quick. And there's my load. Make your own. So this is somewhere in Michigan this past summer. And I bought this online from like these shipbuilders. And that's, I think, a 50 millimeter propeller. And I bought it. I made some kind of cradle for it. This, whoops. The box here is just a square piece of wood that I put scale lumber crated in, and I had some scribe siding that I put on here, little signage that I had on my computer, and there's your load. So what is this? That's poured plaster into some a cheap mold I made out of two clamps that are cheap, or 4 clamps or whatever it is. I put a little plastic sandwich bag underneath it to protect it. You can barely see it, but I didn't, and then I just poured plaster in that to make a little square mold. Why? Because I'm going to drill it in 3 sections. and then I'm going to make my cut stone load. Now, if I had a smaller drill bit than 1/16 of an inch, I would have used it because it would have been more scale appropriate, but used what I had. So, and that's that. I saw this online, a gentleman by the name of Dan Davis, who appears to be an excellent modeler. He can do something like that. I wish I could, but I can't. And I saw that load and I said, I love it. So I did a freeze frame. You know, this was in a little video he had on the Ken Patterson show. And it was like a 3-minute video of this thing going down the track. So I froze the frame and I kind of got out a ruler and said, if that's a 60-foot flat car, which I think it is, then how big is that load? And so given that dimension, I scaled everything and I was able to go out and buy some, only 4 different pieces, some square tubing. This is like an I-beam. This is some angle, and that's just flat. So only 4 pieces, and I can just build the thing. And there's my representation. Not near as elaborate, but it's still, you know, I like how it looks, and it's what I can do. So prefab lumber. One of the rare times I actually drew something because I was going to use this as a template to make that. So with my chopper tool, now notice I make these multiple ply. Why? Because if I didn't, I would have to have exact cuts right here, right here, right here. Instead, I just broke that off. I can just rough cuts and have it extend, and then I'll put the top on it, and then I'll just go back and shave those off and sand it smooth. So, I mean, you can build these rather quickly and you don't have to have exacting cuts. And when it's in the load, you can't, you know, it looks okay. It looks like individual trusses, right? You can't tell it's multiply. Gary Lazelle sent me these photographs. The special fixture to hold those steel plates. I made one out of scrap styrene and sheet styrene. I think those are 30,000th inch sheet styrene. I just cut them to length, and I used 3 different sizes so you can see if they were all the same size, you wouldn't be able to tell there are 3 sheets there. And then of course I banded it and dusted on some light surface rust. And Gary actually sent me this photo again, and he told me how he made it. And I said, well, Gary, I'm going to copy that and use it in the magazine. He says, fine, have at it. So I think this ran several months ago. He used these clear window glazings that are super thick, and they're in Walther's Cornerstone kits for some of their big buildings, like their car shop and things like that. They're really thick, and so I always use, like, you know, just clear acetate to do my window glazings because it's not so bulky. But I saved these things, and it's a good thing I did because they were the right size to make these little loads here. Just scale lumber, you know, I painted these, only the tops, you know, the tops, and laid them on paper and just sprayed the tops, and the sides got painted too. Nothing on the other side because it doesn't show. And there's the load that I made. Crazy. Preview of the November 23 Love Those Loads article. I saw this at a flea market for $2. Why did I buy it? The tires, right? Those are the big tires I needed for my other load, and I didn't have it. Those are rubber tires. And so for $2, 4 tires, that's great. I took the tires off, threw the car away because I wasn't going to do anything with that. Printed out some Goodyear stuff on my computer, did it in the tires, and then I just put them in a gondola. Very easy to do. And I just use a piece of, it looks like an I-beam or something, and just cut off and glued it in place to keep the tires, you know, they're wedged in there, so they're not going anywhere. Very simple to do. The key was finding a big tire that's a nice rubber tire. So it looks like rubber. It's not plastic or anything like that. Didn't have to paint it. It's a real rubber tire. And that was a great find for $2. You know, that's why I go to these things, you know. So there are some open load vendors that you've seen me use through the presentation, different things. Most of them, I check this periodically. Most of them are still in business. But in particular, I would check out, if you're into open loads, check out American Model Builders and Multiscale Digital. This guy creates some. They're usually large loads, but all these other guys have stuff too. And I have an industrial themed layout, and so I have a lot of industry, so I need a lot of open loads. All right. And for the most part, they're static. Some of them operate, but not a whole lot of them. Most of them I keep boxed up because I take them to various shows and clinics and things like that. So I had a few on display. Those of you who were in the celebration room may remember seeing some of those on the model showcase. But anyway, this will be my January article. You can see about that one, how to do that one. So that's my industrial layout. You need loads and industrial layout. And so thanks for attending the clinic. I hope you had loads of fun.
Bob, before you take off, any questions for Bob? Yes, sir, a question?
Hey, Bob?
Yes.
Early on in your presentation, you had a flat car with some H-beams that were new out of the steel plant that you had painted gray.
Yes, and I had the dimensions on them.
I have fought trying to get something that looked that good. What kind of gray did you use to get that look? Because that is as close to steel beams as I've ever seen come right out of a plant.
Oh, well, thank you. You're very kind. And to be honest with you, I look and see what I have on hand, and I know I've got like 3 or 4 shades of gray. One of them is called Panzer Gray. I think Tamiya makes it, and I just got like what they call Gull, Gull gray. It's a lighter gray, and that may be what that is. And I think that's a tester's. Gull gray is tester's, and then I just whatever. Yeah, you're right. The key is getting something that where you just paint it without doing any weathering or anything, sort of looks like the real McCoy, and that's not always easy to do. So thank you for commenting on that.
The other thing is your steel banding that I was very impressed with, and you said that was a 1/32
chart tape or
tape of some sort.
It's the automobile people, the automobile modelers call it a striping tape.
Okay.
The people that do arts and crafts call it a chart tape.
Okay.
So you can get it on. I used to be able to get it like at Michael's Arts and Crafts, but anymore they don't carry that stuff. But where I get a lot of my stuff is Amazon these days, and
Okay.
Amazon has different colors, different thicknesses. You can get it flat, you can get a matte finish, you can get a gloss finish. So it's readily available, or at least.
Okay. Thank you, Bob.
You're quite welcome. Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Bob before we let him go? All right, Bob, thank you very much, sir.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, and maybe I'll see you at an upcoming convention.
All right, very good. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, before you guys run off, Gary Ray has opened his layout for today. His name and address is on the sign on the way out the door. So you can take a picture of it, write it down, memorize it, whatever you want to do. But I hope to see all of Gary Ray's later on this afternoon. Yes.
Real quick. Super quick. My dad passed away a couple years ago, and we're cleaning out his stuff. He worked for a company out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. They made a bunch of promotional artwork. Each one of these packets has like 3 paintings of it, like old diesel locomotives, like 80 units. They're completely free. I'll just leave them sitting around, or if you want to come just grab one from me, I have 5 or 6. Like, just please take these off my hands because I've already got mine at home. Otherwise, they're going in the trash.
You better duck and run.
Can I say something?
Gary wants to say something.
Well, hey, whoa, got a question? What?
Yeah, I was just going to say I would forward to having some people visit. I think I've done some innovative things with my LED lighting.
Hey, we can't. Hang on. Hey. This is Gary Ray. He's our open layout today. He has an announcement.
Yeah, I think I've done some innovative things on the layout, like my LED lighting, the way I put together the bench work, and a swing gate that I installed, so I didn't have a duck under. So hopefully some of you can get over. And the easiest way is to take 20 and where it combines with 30, it says Alito. You just turn right after the two combine, and then take that road up. It turns into Church Road. So it's easy to get here. Anyway, hope to see you some.
All right, Gary, thank you very much for doing this for us today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, guys. Meeting's over, adjourned. Go ahead, do anything with chairs.
Thank you.
Chairs,
Chairs up.
stack your chairs, please.
Thank you, David. Well done.
Whistle.